All right, I had a request from not even a subscriber, just a guy on the YouTube page that wanted to update on the Jeep. So I hadn't done one in a while, and I'll tell you where I'm at with it. So I actually put the tube doors on yesterday. So I did a DOD update. I put the motor back in, and when I had the motor off, I went through all of the evap hoses and stuff, and I replaced the fill tube for the gas fill. I put the newer Model 1 that had the gas flapper flip to keep it from back spewing. Anyway, I was getting an evap code about every 400 or 500 miles. Now I have not had an evap code since. I'm probably 5,000 miles into the build after the DOD. I'm probably 7,000 miles into it. So where am I at? Well, I got an aftermarket hood to try to get a little bit cooler. It has been hot in Texas, May, June, and July. And when I say hot, 110 today. It's very seldom is it below 80 now, right now in the morning. So this creates another problem. I was having a P2138 throttle code issue. It was intermittent. I tightened my grounds down. It went away. It came back. I was getting really frustrated. I was actually going to go see a specialist about it. And so every time I reset my codes, I also noticed that my O2 sensor and my catalyst hadn't reset. So I went 400 or 500 miles without that damn P2138 code, and I'm like, this thing should reset. So I went to see Boosted GT because he has HP tuners, and long story short, we weren't able to connect. He hadn't updated his system, so I got a hold of Robbie at Motec and said, hey man, I'm having this issue with these O2 sensors, and the only thing I noticed with my Torque Pro app is that my intake temperature is high, and when you turn the key on without even running it, the temperature climbs and the O2 heater climbs, and I think it's supposed to. And Robbie responded back. He says, hey, we have the same problem in Vegas. We end up packing the engine bay with ice to get all of the sensors to reset. Well, my registration was due, so I had to do the thing to make it pass. And anyway, I'm still having that situation. Going back to the P2138 that had seemed to come back, I actually took all my ground wires off last week. This is my body to engine grounds. And I noticed when I took them off that I did not have good contact between the body and the ground wire itself. So I got in there with a grinder and I ground it all down, removed the paint. I put better nuts on there. Both of them, I had the same situation on both of them. It's like, okay, I didn't really feel like I had really good ground. So I grounded everything off, put everything back on. I don't know, 400 miles without any engine codes. But I still don't have an O2 sensor or a catalyst sensor reset yet. The monitors aren't ready. I do not have an engine light. I don't have any issues. The thing runs freaking awesome. So with that said, it is my driver. I drive it every day. I reset the codes when I get them, which gets frustrating. Again, I'm 300 or 400 miles into it without having the code, and reset them going down the road. I usually use my Torque Pro app to do that. My Aeroforce gauge doesn't read right. It shows what gear I'm in. It shows the temperature. It shows a few other things, but it does not show the engine code when they pull up. So I end up using my Torque Pro more than I use it. I get 15 miles a gallon. I got 15 miles a gallon before the DOD swap. I got 15 miles a gallon now. I got 15 miles a gallon most of the time when I had the 3.8 in it, but I drove a lot slower with the 3.8. And when I did drive like 60 miles an hour, 65 miles an hour, the 3.8 got as high as 18 for a whole tank. I've got 16 out of this, driving it reasonably sane. It doesn't like the wind. The wind in Texas blows from the south a lot, and so it bucks the wind, and you can tell it's pushing a little bit. And the bad thing is that I have a 75-mile round trip to work. I live off a road called 1187. I zip across 1187. I get on I-35. keeping up with traffic through downtown is in excess of 80 miles an hour, and it's just the way it is. I don't like it. I don't like going that fast, but that's how fast people drive, and I'm not going to be a roadblock. And it's gotten kind of silly, but anyway, so I drive 30 miles to work, 35 miles to work at 80 miles an hour, 35 miles home, and I get 15 miles a gallon with 35-inch tires, 373 gears, 8-speed transmission, GM 8-speed transmission, and the GM 5.3 that is stock. It's just the way it came out of the Chevrolet truck, except for we did the DOD delete. I haven't even changed oil in it. I'm getting close to an oil change. I'm probably 7,000 miles into the build. I have to go look at the mileage, but it's pretty close. I don't even worry about it. I get in it, drive it. If I get a code, I reset it. Got frustrated. I did my ground thing, and it's good to go. Got a friend from work that's painting the aftermarket hood. I got that hood to kind of relieve some of the temperatures under there because the under hood temps are warm. I put my stock Jeep hood on that has hail damage on it. I actually, it was touching the engine, the intake in a couple of spots. So because I already had some dents in it, I went after it with a hammer, and it was kind of a joke, and the guys kind of laughed at me, but that's what I did. But anyway, that's the update. I'm very happy with it. The thing doesn't leak any oil, doesn't leak any water. I am struggling with the AC. I do think that my evaporator in my Jeep was bad before. I didn't run the AC a lot before. It did work, but I didn't really use it a lot. But I am losing AC coolant. I've refilled it half dozen times. It lasts for about a week. So that's a target for another day. My wife, she's at 30,000 miles with the 3.6. It gets 16 miles a gallon. She drives it back and forth to work. She drives it downtown Fort Worth. She does not drive on the highway. She does stop and go. When we drive on the highway, 80 miles an hour, it gets 16 miles a gallon, sometimes 15, depending on if the wind's blowing. This one's got 488 gearing in it. It's got the 8-speed, the Pentastar 8-speed with the Pentastar transmission in it, or Pentastar motor in it. It is 2020. We did put the 35s on it. It had 33s on it when we got it. We took the hard top off and put the soft top on. And we've done a little bit of things. We got the really good metal cloak suspension under. Really good. I love that suspension. That thing rides really good. So that's her Jeep. That's what she does. I got a TJ in the shop that's got 488s in it. It gets 13 miles a gallon when I try to drive it 75 and 80. It drives 75 and 80 just fine. But it's my rock crawler. That's what we take when we go to Davis or Mason or Moab or wherever we go, and that's what we take. So anyway, a family full of Jeeps. They're not great, gas mileage machines, but they're fun to drive. My top's been off since April, and I slapped it on twice for the rain. And other than that, we're good to go. That's the update.